Hello, and welcome back to the Wizard's Respite Sanctorum, the show that dives into all things TTRPG. This is I believe, our first real filming, first real show of the year, and we're going to be coming at you with a lot of news today. That's going to be the focus of the day, kind of summarizing where the world is as we start this new year in the TTRPG space, and kind of break down our ideas on some of the big topics that we are launching into 2026 about. But as always, before we jump into that, I am not alone. I am here with my good friend Zachariah from Old Man Gaming. Zach,
Hi,
how are you doing,
everybody.
man?
I am excited to talk about tabletops. I do want to apologize to everybody out there. I know we're a bi weekly show, but it's been like 6 weeks since an episode has come out. So, sorry about that. That being said, the holidays done be kicking our butts. So, I'm excited. I'm excited to get back in there.
Yeah, me too. I really love doing these shows. They're not just like a solid, I feel like, good show to make, but also fun. They are
Yeah.
fun to make. They're a highlight of my week, to be honest. When we jump in there, it really is
With all
because
the
we get to do
work,
the thing that we love, nerd out.
yeah. Yeah, with all the work I put into the other shows, like it's really nice to just like get on, talk about games for a while, and then get off and have like this is probably the easiest show to edit that we do because we don't take any breaks and there's no weird like cutting or anything like that. So like we literally like I hit record, we talk until we're done, and then I stop record, and then I just change it to the YouTube format, and then that's it. Like it's so
Nice.
nice to do this show, honestly.
Well, Zach, I got a whole list of news topics to jump into. Going
Sick.
into 2026, people have been talking quite a bit. There's been a lot of information flying around. Some of it is sort of bleed over from last year's, but some of it's just a new take on old problems, and then a brand new set of talking points in the industry, like subject matters that if you're in the hobby, this is gonna affect you or pertain to you in one way or the other. So let's jump into it. I think the first one we're gonna do is actually kind of hitting home to what we were just saying. This show, it's actual plays versus actual play for teaching people how to play a game. Actual plays for entertainment. The big, very flashy, fun, really, really manicured, cut down, streamlined, actor-driven shows that are almost more like talking novellas, versus actual play shows that are more about teaching people how to play the game, teaching people how the mechanics work so they can take the actual game into their own home and their own table and have fun with it. There is quite a divide occurring now. I mean, this comes in and out. All of these topics come in and out from time to time, but I think the reason why it has returned to the forefront of people's minds is that there were a couple of stats dropped about this. More entertainment focused, show based, almost feeling a little bit more scripted. Not saying they are, but very, very polished, reduced games are making the majority of the profit, basically, in the actual play space. Whereas the games that are more about teaching people to play, or the shows that are more about teaching people to play, are not getting that same share. The big issue here being the fancy shows that are more focused on entertainment. They're a little bit more set up for like the novella style, like listen and be entertained. Kind of lead people astray who are new to the RPG community. They don't really get a real sense of how a game feels at the table, how to play a game. They feel like they walk into a television show or a broadcast show, and that is just not what this is. Not a show, it is a game. And there's a divide when it hits the game table, the home game table. So that's the broad picture.
It's a really fine line to walk, but before that, like I think of course the more produced cut down stuff are going to get the lion's share. They're the crossovers. You know what I mean? They're the things that are bringing people who have never played or not in. Like those are the things that are like going to get people who don't play RPGs to kind of like check it out, because they're just streamlined to what those people are used to consuming via content, which is
Right.
just scripted television, scripted movies, that sort of thing. And yes, it does lead them very astray. At the same time, at least it brings them in the door, and it gives them the ability to then see what it really is and make that decision on their own as to whether they want to stay with it or not. I want to say this, and I don't know how many people listen to this, watch this, but if you're an actual player out there, or even just a YouTuber out there, I think the best thing you can do for your mental sanity is just do what feels right, regardless of the stats. I think that I've said this on the gaming channel a lot. When we first started the gaming part of the gaming channel, because now we're kind of the hybrid, we do a lot of actual play stuff now that Wizard's part of us. But even before that, when we were a gaming channel, I looked at the algorithm and how the algorithms worked and stuff like that. I realized that, like, if me, Phil, Billy, Neil, and Logan at the time had just made videos for one game, just that was it. We made videos for that game and we put out 2 of those videos a day. We would have gotten we would have been much bigger than we are. That's how you run the algorithm. Like, you find a game that people are looking for, and then you flood the algorithm with that content from that game, and your stuff starts showing up on other people's stuff, and then it starts getting reception from you. That's how a lot of the gaming YouTubers do it. Like, the Kill Six is a Borderlands guy. He only does Borderlands stuff. Because of that, he is huge. Like, that being said, if we had done it that way, we would be crazy by now and would not want to do it anymore. I think that, like, there is something to be said about what you're doing this for. Like, if this is something that absolutely you want to do this to make money, okay, cool. Then you want to really work at it. You want to really streamline it. But the problem with it is it's still, at the end of the day, kind of like hitting the lottery. If you're an actual player and you're somebody who wants to have that, like, big success, like the Critical Role success, so you buy all this stuff to make your stuff look really nice and fancy and cut it down, and you spend the hours editing, that's great. People might not pick you up. And if people don't pick you up, you don't make your money back, and now you've just spent a bunch of money on nothing. With me, I want to play games, and I want them to mean something, and I feel like they mean a lot more when they're out there for people to see. I don't know why that is, but that's just how I feel. So that's one of the big reasons I wanted to start doing the actual play stuff. So, like, it's tricky. I think that if you're somebody who wants to do an actual play, you should just do an actual play. I don't think you should necessarily worry about the accoutrement right off the bat, because that might not pay off, and if that doesn't pay off, then you've done you've made a thing that was fun not fun in the process of also not succeeding at it. And that was something that I never wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that this channel, the role-playing games that we play, all of that stuff still remained fun in some way, shape, or form. And then,
yeah,
if I can continue bouncing to another part of that, I think it's a really fine line when you're actually playing the game as to how much information you're giving the viewer. And that is something I 100% have struggled with on every actual play I've run. Like, how much time should I be spending summarizing what happened in the last episode? How much time should I be spending summarizing on what role X means for role Y means for role X? How much time should I be spending on summarizing, like, the systems of the game? Do the people watching really give a shit? And that is something that I have really struggled with, even on Duel Bastards more recently, because that's a system nobody can get their hands on. It is an alpha game system that I'm in the process of writing, so no one can play it, no one can get their hands on it. But at the same time, I feel like people are going to look back on it for how-tos, and so, like, I have to give some information. And also, people don't want to not understand why something's happening on the screen, you know? So like there is a really fine line between that I think is tough to walk. I was talking to Wiz before we started this topic, and I said that I'm having issues kind of with this right now with Perfect Draw. Perfect Draw is a Powered by the Apocalypse game about like a Yu-Gi-Oh type thing. Not to spoil anything, might never come out, but myself is trying to organize an actual play for the summer for that system. I have never played a narrative-focused game like this. It's just not in my repertoire. I have not stepped into that. The most narrative-focused stuff I've done is with you, Wiz, and it has been in very controlled environments. I have almost never been the game master. So, like, I don't think I've never done a game like this. So I really like reading the book made me cross-eyed. Like it was like I don't understand these rules. When I then switched over to starting to try and find people to show me how to play this game, the creators, the developers of this game did a series of streams like character creation, card combat, stuff like that. They're terrible. And I mean that with all due respect. They're awful. It's two developers, and they're having fun, and I don't have a problem with them having fun, but they are so lost in their own fun that I learned nothing from the character creation one. I came away from it more confused because half the time they were setting up story and stuff and all sorts of weird stuff that didn't really make sense to the actual process of the character creation. So I kept looking. I ended up finding an actual play done by I believe her YouTube name is Fei. Go check her out. They're all weirdos, but they do a really fun actual play here, and I really enjoy it. And the
weirdos are the best.
Yeah, no, I know. She's like a VTuber. And then she has a bunch of PNG tubers with her too. So it's all sorts of like fringe YouTube stuff that me as a 44-year-old man is like, I just put my face on the internet, you know. But here's the thing about that. Their session 0, I learned more about character creation in that session 0 than I learned in reading the book, than I learned in the developer stream, than I learned in any of that, because of the way they talk to each other, they talk through it, and they actually did it together, that I was like, oh, that makes sense now. Like, watching them play makes it much, much better. And I don't think they intended it that way, but it comes off that way. So it's weird.
What do you think the success of their technique was versus the failure of the developer's technique?
I think the failure of the developer's technique is they were trying to show how much fun you can have with character creation as well as character creation, and by doing that they lost the thread of the character creation, like just going through the character creation step by step. So they were like building a universe while they were doing character creation, which is cool, but only if you know what you're doing already. Whereas with Fei-Fei's play, they had already done almost all of their character creation stuff. She sat down at the table. It was an hour and a half, and she goes to each character, has them define what they are, how, like who they are as characters, and then goes through the process of the character creation with each one of them. And it just made it so much clearer, just them all doing it at the table. The other thing I think that Fei did better than the developers is developers bring up things about the game, but Fei actually used Tabletop Simulator and actually had character sheet cards right in front of the screen that you could see exactly what the changes were and that sort of thing, which I think really helped. But I think at the end of the day, they had already decided the world they were going to play in. They had already decided what they were going to be doing with that, and then they were presenting character creation to us. But they were doing it for like, these are our characters, but they weren't worried about the world and what it is. Like the first 30 minutes of that character creation stream is literally them deciding what the world is going to be. For a game
Okay.
that's literally never going to happen. It's just you guys demoing the game. Just demo the game. Like, I understand that you're having fun with it, but just demo the game. Show us what character creation is. And I think that, like, that's what Face did. They already had a universe. They were just sitting down at a digital table and showing you their characters. And that in itself did so much more than something else.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'd also say, like, that does lean more into, like, the almost kind of a combination of like, entertainment and actual play for education. It sounds like Feifei might be going, like, ultimately playing a game that is fun but entertaining with all of these fun personalities at her table. I'm actually really curious to watch that now, so I get a better sense of it too.
It really helps
And
because it's just a completely different beast than any sort of game I've ever attempted to play, and I'm going to be running it. So it's something else, you know.
yeah, it sounds tricky, but it sounds like a good technique, and I really like the idea of her. Like, I'm haven't watched it yet, so let me ask you. I'm making a little bit of assumption here, but I'm guessing that her players also needed a little bit of guidance in creating their characters. They needed to understand the rules a bit.
A little bit. I could definitely tell that at least each of the players, because they had, at least a couple of them had already sat down with her and like done some random plays between the two of them, just so that they could see what card combat was and how the system worked.
Okay.
But it was much more like I don't know, like that first was very well done, to the point where like she's defining the game really easily. She even had like these crib sheets and almost defined how to play a lot better than other things that I had seen, where I was like, oh man, now I understand the play a little bit better. Like, the game master never rolls dice.
Oh.
Never rolls dice in it. It's like,
Just makes calls.
Yeah, you guys roll dice and decide outcomes, and then I describe things. Like, that's it. Like, and set up story and world stuff, which I think is really interesting. I have a much more active role in the card playing mechanics, because I'm playing the NPCs against you guys. But
Okay.
but yeah, like like that was something I had not because I've never played a game where Game Master doesn't roll any dice. Never even tried a game like that. So
that's really interesting, and I very much appreciate it. I'm excited now. Like, I haven't watched this. I'm excited to go and watch it so that I learn how to play this. And I really like these types of shows that teach you how to play, because I love RPGs. I love learning about new games, and I love playing new games.
yeah.
And so this is the exact type of show that I would love to jump into. It teaches me about a new game with a fun cast. It's just kind of maybe having a little bit of a goofball time, but still focused on conveying relevant information about the actual system.
Well, and that's what's crazy to me, is like how well they define what this game is over, like I said, the developer stream. And I think that's something to be said. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but when I did a series of videos when single mod first came out, about how to play single mod, like what that looked like, I don't think there's one of those videos that's over 20 minutes long. And that's because I'm not worrying about any extraneous stuff. I'm doing like, all right, I'm going to create a character in front of you, start to finish, and show you how to do that. I'm going to do combat, start to finish, in front of you. I'm going to do experience, start to finish, in front of you. Like, keep it concise, because like if you're doing a stream that somebody's going to look back on to try and figure out how to play your game, what's the good of all the extra stuff, you know?
Right.
Like, if you want to have an actual play where you just have fun, do that. I'm not saying you shouldn't. Just don't mark it as like a character creation tutorial, you know?
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Let's see. Actually, you know what? That actually kind of brings me quite a bit into the next topic, the next news topic that everybody seems to be discussing quite a bit about. which is actually creator burnout. So we're talking about, content creators here who are all into maybe making the perfect polished RPG actual play versus projecting out a very focused educational. This is how you play a game, but they're still content creators. And content creator burnout is now a topic of discussion. And there is some discussion going around indie RPG designers as also getting burnt out on the industry, burnt out on what they're doing. But a lot of that also hinges on the fact a lot of these RPG designers create YouTubes and shows and stuff and social media and all the business stuff to get their name out there so people see their game. And it's a lot. This is a lot of stuff to do. And burnout apparently is happening widespread.
I mean,
we're looking at like most people who are getting into this to make a little bit of money, try to be a content creator, not making it where they need to be able to do this as a day job. That's by and large the across the board. I think it was like the vast majority of people struggle with that, and then inevitably start burning out and losing traction on it, which goes into like, how much do you love it and what are you doing? Because you got to keep loving it or you're going to burn out.
I truly understand this. I'm a channel with 600 and some subscribers. Like, that's it. Like, we climb, but it's a slow climb, and I'm never going to be in the partnership program, and that's okay. I would say that you have also had lukewarm minor success with your stuff. And I would say that both of us have felt burnout, and without a doubt, and multiple times. I can say without a doubt, when we were our heaviest, and I'm recording like literally every night of a week, like it was a lot. Right now, I have an infected tear duct in my fucking left eye, and you have a cold, and we're on here doing this, like. And we don't make any money at this. Like, we make pittance at this. So, like, for us to be doing that, I can only imagine the kind of burnout popular YouTubers get, especially since you have to then factor in the social response. When I get comments on videos, it's like the same 4 or 5 people. They're awesome people. Even if they have something nasty to say, it's not necessarily like they're going to do it mean. Like, the content is very, very comment free. I'm going to tell you right now, I have one video that I posted a couple of years ago. It is infamous. It was before I met you. It is an infamous old man gaming thing, and it is my Monster Hunter Rise demo thoughts on the game. And the Monster Hunter community are fucking lunatics who... Because I said that the game, I was not finding the game that fun, they came after me so fucking hard. It's the most downvoted video I've ever put on the internet. It has something like, I think 1,000 comments at this point. Well over a couple K views. Yeah. And I'm not even mean to the game, like, not really. I just said, like, I didn't like it compared to Monster Hunter World. Which has led me to hate the Monster Hunter community. Like, fuck those guys. Fuck them. Fuck every last one of them. Like, you toxic bitches. Can you imagine that? Right. That was one video. I've had 2 videos in my entire time go toxic. There was that video and then another podcast in which I said Atari making a console was stupid. And Atari people apparently came after me. Who the fuck are Atari people? But, what? But I've had two videos go toxic, and I legitimately thought about never doing it again. I can only imagine what D&T YouTubers who post their stuff get, who are regularly watched and viewed by tens of thousands of people, they are getting toxic views. They're getting toxic comments. They can't not. And like that right there would be enough to cause burnout, let alone the fact that if you're doing this for money, you're putting out 2 videos a day, 3 videos a day. You've got to keep coming up with stuff. You've got to do that editing. You also, at that point, probably are hiring a team, which means you have to manage a team.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can only imagine. On the smallest scale, you and I have both experienced creator burnout, and we are not even, like, we're on the smallest scale. So, like, I can only imagine what it is. You also add in the fact that regardless of your politics, our country costs the most it's ever costs to live in. And that's going to just add stress. It's just going to add stress. It's going to add stress. And I think that, like, you can get burnout in anything nowadays because you're already burned out with other stuff, and then it flows into what you're working, and then your working becomes not fun, or your hobbies become not fun. You know,
when you're at a point in the world and your life where you are just like burnt out, generally stressed, tired, exhausted, life has gotten to you. Not even putting energy into something that is creative seems hard because you are exhausted.
Yes.
Everything. Like all you can do when you get home is sit in front of the TV and watch TV because you are physically destroyed and mentally destroyed by the day.
Mm-hmm.
And we have all been there. There's not a person that is ever going to listen to this that has not experienced the feeling of being just devastated by a long, painful, stressful day of life. You come home and that's kind of halfway regular. You're not going to want to make a content creation of any sort. You're not going to want to play a game. You're going to want to just sit there and not exist for a little while because you are done. You are cooked.
It's not a good place to be in. It's not a healthy place to be in. I had one day where I spent, no joke, 8 hours editing. I had so many videos and so many things to do, and I think that was the day that, like, I realized, and I know anybody who's been watching this channel for a long time has noticed the amount of content we put out in a week has gone down. I mean, for the first 4 years, it was a show a day, sometimes two. It's now down. But I can't even realize I don't even get to play the games that I'm talking about in the videos that I'm editing because I'm editing them. I think that, like, there had to be a point where I was like, okay, if I want to keep doing this, I've got to stop doing this.
Right. Yeah. Time to readjust and reevaluate and get it. And like the wizardsrespite.com, I started that. Another point that you made that I thought was really relevant. I started that several years ago. And it was a blog. It was going to be dedicated to all things TTRPG, very similar to what we're doing here, but it was my writing. It was just jotting down ideas, suggestions, tips. Game reviews is a big part of it. I thought it would be a great opportunity to push me to read more games. At the time, politics in the world had just started ramping up to the forefront of everybody's mind. That's when I started it. And when that happened, I had noticed that division within communities started ramping up. And I think that there was this is for a couple of reasons. I think just generally people were a little bit more tense. But I think the real reason came down to algorithmic propelling more hot button issues, more topics that are rage baiting. And I had said to myself straight off the bat, I'm not doing rage bait. Not doing it. If I do rage bait and I get going with that, I'm never going to not be able to do rage bait. And I'm not going to enjoy my life. I'm not the type of person that gets excited about fighting people. I'm approach arguments with a balanced narrative of trying to understand their perspective. I don't have to agree with them. I can disagree with everybody on every single topic. And still walk away and being like, you're a cool guy.
Yeah, I feel like there's no place in the world for people like us anymore. It's like if you don't hate somebody, then what are you doing with your life? Like, well, I'm not hating, so I think I'm doing pretty good. I think the other thing is too, like, what's sad about it is you and I both know what we could do to our videos to make them get more views. I mean, I could just
Yeah.
title them differently. I could just make them clickbaity titles, and I would get right there. My view count would go up probably by 50%. Is it worth it? I don't
And
think it's worth it.
When I play the algorithm on my my site when I'm writing articles, what it is I'm looking for topics that people care about, and I will discuss that topic. It's things that I think are relevant. I'm not going to just it's going to be a topic where people sometimes struggle with this concept at the table, and maybe I might be able to share some insight that will give them a little bit more leverage, a different take on that topic. It's relevant to them. That's pretty much the closest thing I go to algorithm searching is topics that people care about.
Right.
And I discuss it. But baiting people into something, getting them riled up, walking away with extra views and clicks because you either disagree with me or agree with me, that's just not going to be something I ever enjoy doing, and it will kill me. It will absolutely kill me.
Well, and that's something people got to do nowadays to make it in this. And even then, you don't. I think that's one of the biggest problems is we live in almost like a lottery society when it comes to like the YouTube and the content. Like, you make money if you get picked, and you think, and there's all these videos that are like, well, you do this, this, and this, and they'll pick you. That doesn't mean they pick you. There's 1,000 other people doing this. And that's the other thing too is RPGs are big now, just like video games are.
Right.
There's 100,000 people doing the exact same thing you're doing, period, at all times. If you don't realize that, you're a crazy person. You're not bringing anything new to the table. You're not bringing anything special to the table. So what happens? Well, we're all just in a pool and somebody's picking us. You know what I mean? And that's the problem, is it's a lottery thing. And like, there's you can watch every tutorial video out there on how to make your videos the best videos ever, and they still don't give a shit about you. You know what I mean? Like,
and there's nothing that at the end of the day you can do about that. You have to decide how you want to spend your life, really.
I'd give up 100. I'd give up 100 views for one superfan view. Any day of the week, for one guy out there who's like, this is the content that I wanted, this is the content that I enjoy, this is the content I like watching. I got William Houlihan out there on the video game side. Love the dude. He has been with us since nearly the beginning. He's a super fan. I would give up 100 subscribers to keep him, because and I'm not saying he's a yes man. He's not. He's definitely argued with us on stuff, but this is where we've created an internet space where he belongs. You know what I mean? Right. Like, and that's what I want. That's what I want. I want that. And if you don't want that, man, just don't even bother, because like, otherwise, like, if you strike it rich, great. If you don't, but striking it rich is a real mo money, mo problems sort of situation when it comes to creator stuff.
So, okay, we got through two of my talking points.
Is that only two? That was only two?
Jesus.
I think maybe 4, I feel like. Why don't we just go to that last one? Because we're already 33 minutes in.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. We got.
I'm sorry. It's more news my fault. It's got to be my fault.
I'll be honest with you. These both were topics. These are topics that are popping in the news, and we both had been dealing with them. Yeah. Which means we've been thinking about them, which means we got something to say.
They definitely touch nerves. And I'm pretty sure the third one is going to touch nerves too.
That is. So this third one, this is interesting. We've touched tiny bits of it here and there in the past. We've talked about doing a whole show about it in the past. It was a topic that was very big several years ago. There was a lot of controversy. It's kind of ironic. We're leaving
to the point where it's written into books. It's written into books.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why it's risen again. It's because it's becoming more prevalent in RPG books that you see, and that is the normalization of what is being called safety tools. And if you don't know what that is, quick TLDR on that. Safety tools are mechanisms that you can bring to your table, either as a player, a DM, whatever it may be, that make people more comfortable playing the game. And being able to feel safe in the environment and not pressured or triggered in any way. And that's like a very, very basic, broad look at it, but it's basically to make people feel more comfortable. Some of the big ones that come off, like you may have heard about these, is lines and veils. It's like if there's a romantic scene between characters, there's a line that it goes to before it disappears. It cuts to dark. In the movie, the guy and the girl look romantically, and then it cuts to dark, and it's assumed the next morning they're waking up and making eggs. You know what they did. The other one is the X card. Yeah, that is where if you're feeling uncomfortable about something going on, or there is a big fat X on this card, you can raise it up, you can point at it, you let everybody know, I feel squeamish here. There's often these cards will have a couple of different markers on them, like this is kind of getting a red button area. It's like a medium. I think it's like, I can't remember, it was an orange circle or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. These are the safety tools. This is becoming very common in a lot of RPGs that are being released right now, to the point where it's almost expected that you have some reference to this in your book among certain communities. Initial thoughts.
Okay. I have a lot to say on this one. I know everybody saw me shaking my head out there for the X card. I want to say right off the bat, I do believe in safety tools. I don't believe in the safety tools that are offered. I think they are the dumbest thing that has ever existed. First of all, if you want anonymity in any way, shape, or form, holding a big card with a big X on it is not going to get you that. And it's only going to prompt the people around you to ask what the fuck is going on, because most likely you're playing with your friends. Don't get me wrong. We, especially in the RPG space, with actual plays where people have never met before they play together, or they have very cursory relationships before they play. Hell, you and me, Wiz, we met online. We knew very little about each other before we played our first game together. I think in that kind of a space, that makes a difference. You do need some safety tools because you don't know what you're walking into. If somebody was abused as a child, okay? And they're not going to just, hi, what's up? My name is Zach. I was abused as a child. Like, that's not how they introduce themselves. It's not something they want to talk about. But if you do a story about child abuse, well, you're not going to spoil that to your players by saying, hey, is everybody cool with child abuse? That's just not how people put stories together and how you consume the stories. If you're watching TV and you realize child abuse is about to come on the TV and you're about to be triggered, you could turn the TV off. You can't really do that when you're playing a character in a game. And if you don't know the people, you don't know what you're in for. I think what people need to do is they need to set up direct lines of communication via phones, and they need to monitor those while they are game mastering. So that if Joe Schmo over here, if I start to go into a scene and Joe Schmo over here texts me and my phone goes off and it says, I'm not comfortable with this, we can take a pause and I can come up with something else. But that way, we don't know that Joe Schmo was the one who texted me. We don't know, like, it's not magnifying their trauma. I think the X card is the dumbest thing because it magnifies the person's trauma. Not only are you asking a person who is shy and upset about a thing to the point where they don't want to be in a position where they are reminded about that thing, you're asking them to then announce it to a group of people. Potentially an entire audience if you're doing an actual play. The X card is fucking stupid. It will always be stupid, in my opinion, because you're basically telling everybody you have trauma about that, no matter what. You're outing. The X card is a outing you mechanism that is broken.
Right.
I think that there should be safety. I truly think there should be safety. And we have talked about this before. I think game masters need to try to get to know their players as much as they possibly can before they play. When we were going to record Duel Bastards, Daniel straight up said to me, I don't like doing romance stories. He didn't say that with any trauma or anything, so I don't think I'm outing him or anything. He's like, I just don't like that. I have not put him in a romance story because I'm a good game master. Like, find out what your players are into, find out what your players are not into, and try. Obviously, there's going to be moments where you run into stuff and you don't know that they're not into that because they don't announce it, and that's fine. But you need an anonymous way to tell people that you're not comfortable, because otherwise, like, oh my God, I could rant about this forever. I'm gonna say one more thing.
You got your feelings on this one.
I'm gonna say one more thing. I was uncomfortable at a table. I was made very uncomfortable at a table once. It is a table that I regularly go to. I don't necessarily want to give the specifics. It was not because of the content of the game. It was because of something I personally was dealing with that was called out repeatedly by another person, and to the point where it was like a magnifying glass on this thing that I was doing. And it made me incredibly uncomfortable and incredibly upset. But again, the reason I'm incredibly uncomfortable and the reason I'm incredibly upset is there's a magnifying glass on the thing that is wrong with me or the trauma that I have experienced. I'm not going to then be like, I need to stop playing because there's a magnifying glass on the trauma that I'm upset about. I'm going to shut up and get way more upset and way more triggered about it. And that's even worse. There has to be a way to convey to your people that you're not comfortable anymore without necessarily putting a big fucking stupid X out or like pointing at it. It's the dumbest thing ever. I'm sorry. I'm not usually like hardline, this is stupid, but the X card is fucking stupid. Like, I'm not. And that's not me saying that people shouldn't be aware of their trauma, aware of their triggers. I'm saying that those people do not want to hold a giant red X above their head when they're upset. Like, you're already triggered. You don't want to be triggered about more. I hate the X card.
I definitely see what you're saying. Like, this is such an. We just talk about the X card alone.
Yeah, sure.
For a minute.
Sure.
This is such a weird thing for what you're saying. 100%.
I don't know who came up with it. It sounds like somebody who has no trauma coming up with a way to deal with trauma. Truly, that's what it sounds like.
Or like somebody who doesn't want to deal with awkward conversations. Like here's like there's a couple of big problems. Like you've just hit the nail on the head with one of the major problems with the X card. Hey, here's a big stinking X showing you that I don't like this topic. And if it is a serious topic, like you said, there's maybe child abuse. Maybe it's got something to do with like, I mean, let's be honest with you. The whole world of Gambit is out there when it comes to RPGs. If you're playing a game like Morkborg, holy shit, dude, that game is messed up. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to say it right there. That game is messed up. And that X card might, be something that a traumatized person reaches to constantly because of how messed up that game is. But that's not great. That's not great for them, because you don't want to be like, hey, this horrible thing that just happened in the story, like, freaks me the frick out. Like, everybody's going to look at you and be like, well, what happened to them? Like, did this happen to her? Did this happen to him? And it's just going to self-conscious. You're 100% right there. There's also, like,
I mean,
I don't think this is...
White Wolf is incredibly sexually charged. And if you're playing Vampire the Masquerade... Let's face it. I mean, biting somebody on the neck who does not want to be bit on the neck is sexual assault. Like, that's what it is. Like, the whole game is based on that premise. So, like,
good one.
I totally understand that triggering somebody. I totally understand that. I 100% see somebody being like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I understand that. Those people don't want to put a fucking sign above their head that says, I'm one of those people.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Another issue, and I'm going to go ahead and say, like, I think this argument is overused. I think a lot of arguments are it overemphasizes the point to the big end, creates an idea that this is more common than it actually is, but I think that it's performative.
Yeah.
Is another argument. People can raise up the card. I do think that happens. There are assholes out there. They are going to be very performative about it.
We talked about it.
It's normal.
Yeah, we talked about it at the garage table, and it became a joke. And, like, it literally became like somebody would attack my character and be like, I'm sorry, X card. Like, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. And, like, because that card is a silly concept to me. And
Yeah.
I think that writing that card into your game is basically you being like, I put something in here so that people can't be upset that I didn't put something in here without thinking about the solution in any way, shape, or form, or putting any forethought in it. I'm sorry, my blood is boiling right now. I did not realize I was as mad about that card as I am. But like without, like, if you want to address being safe around a game table with people you don't know, if you want to address that in your game, I think awesome. I think about it for more than 10 fucking seconds before you start writing shit down, because anybody who did or just ask somebody who maybe you know who has some trauma, how would you like to deal with trauma? Would you like a giant red arrow that points to you at the middle of the table when it starts to come up? No, you would not. I think that, like, yeah, I hate that I hate that hex card. I think it's a dumb idea to come up with people who don't have trauma. At least not trauma serious enough to think about it in that way.
So now let's go from the X card.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna keep yelling about it. I'm very hard to be hardline. And like,
yeah, that's true. I'll say, like, you and I have like talked about all kinds of hot button issues across the show without even ever discussing the issue beforehand. Between you and I, we go on the show and we on the air just discuss it, and we're always kind of like, okay, we kind of see where the other person's coming from, or we agree, or that's a good point, but but so you going like hardcore at X card is like.
I'm sorry.
I think maybe once in this entire time we've been doing this is the only thing that you've been like, motherfucker.
And it's in an episode where we just talked about rage baiting, which is even better. I wasn't expecting to be. I don't know. I was upset, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go after it," and then I went after it, and it's just, I don't know. It just.
I think you need an X card for X cards.
Right.
You need an X card for X cards.
I've been uncomfortable at tables before. I legitimately have. I've been legitimately uncomfortable at tables. I've chosen to work through them, but there have definitely been moments where I'm like, I need to walk away. I need a break. Or I've wanted one. I can't imagine a worse way to deal with that than to pick up a big red X card and then expect everybody, like, how...
Yeah,
like just imagine that scene in your head, picking that up and putting it over your head while the game master's talking. What does everybody do? What, like, they would just sit there and be like, I don't know what to do with this now. And then, like, do we call a break? Do we ask them what's wrong? Like, it'd be fucking awful. It would be like, oh man, it would be like pulling an emergency brake while somebody else is driving. It's insane to me. It's insane to me the way that thing is. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I went off on another tangent. I'm gonna stop. Okay. I promise.
So there's another random thing. This is actually not something that's directly addressed here, and this is going to be very weird in a way. I'm taking a sidestep to the idea of safety tools. My mom was raised by a woman who had her very late in life and came from another era.
Okay.
And she was expected in the 60s, as she was a teenager, to do certain things that were considered, socially, normal for somebody who maybe grew up in the 20s. And one of the things that she had to do was go to, I can't remember the proper name of it. It's basically a girls' school for etiquette, where she would learn all of the proper ways of doing things. And she has actually told me that she loved it. Now, here's the reason why. She didn't have to do this when she was in her late teens and 20s. She could choose to do this. Back in the early 20s, women had to do this. It was part of social, like you didn't do this and you were a bad person kind of thing. But she learned how to set a table. She learned how to communicate properly. And one of the other things she learned how to do was have proper manners in challenging situations. That was something she was actually educated on in this finishing school. And that's the thing. they went out of style. I don't think any of them exist anymore.
Nah.
You can still find textbooks from the era. And I'm not saying that we go back to an era where people are feeling like they are oppressed and
Right.
forced into a box.
Right.
But I'm thinking that giving people a structured set of tools that they can use in a social situation and know, okay, if I reply to this person in this way, I'll probably be de-escalating the situation without looking like I'm backing down. I can still stand my ground and feel confident where I'm at without like pushing them or getting angry or saying something in an impolite way that makes me look like an asshole, you know? And I think an etiquette book for game tables, not an RPG, just an etiquette book for game tables, would be useful. It's not a law. That's the reason. That's the difference between why my mom enjoyed having these skill sets and why women of the 20s had suffrage. You know,
Right.
She could choose to employ these skills she learned where she felt they best suited her life. And I think that an etiquette book where people can learn tools that they can employ would be useful. Random tangent,
No,
but I think this would be very useful
I
for
don't
safety
think that's
tools.
I don't think that's a terrible idea. I don't think that's a terrible idea at all. But honestly, I think game masters, when they come up with the content that they want to do, they should just come up with a list of keywords, of potential trauma keywords. Send it out to your players if you don't know them that well. Does anybody have a problem with these keywords? Because that's what the game's going to include. If you do, no judgment. Send it back to me anonymously. I'll redevelop the storyline. I think that we don't live in a world where we have instant anonymous communication at our fingertips
Right.
at literally all times. We don't need a giant red card or something along those lines. I think that there's something. I think that, and I'm not going back on the X card rant. I want to hammer home too, because I've been really hard on the X card. I think there should be safety at your game table. I am not against safety measures. I just, as a person who has experienced trauma and uncomfortable things at game tables, I cannot imagine somebody like me enjoying that card or using that card. I think that there are much better ways to do it. I think as a game master, especially if you are about to run a game online with some people that you maybe don't know that well, do a session zero. Do a session zero and give a basic overview of what you're planning on doing with the storyline. You don't have to spoil it. I think Wiz has been to enough of my session zeros to understand that we go over kind of what we're going to be looking at without necessarily spoiling it. But know your players, know the situations that they're in and they're going to be triggered on, and try to avoid that in the early onset. If you are a player with trauma, avoid games that could turn into your trauma. Unless you're trying to deal with that thing or work through that thing, avoid it. Like there are so many ways to avoid a situation before you even sit down at the table that that's one of those things that kind of irritates me. You know what I mean? So many ways.
This is what I'm saying, the etiquette book would be useful, because that right there is a chapter. Yeah. What you just said right there could be a chapter. You start off for DMs, then you go into something that for players, and then you go into a list of key phrases that GMs could send their potential players, like you just said, of content that might be a little bit more dramatic for them. Subject matters that might come up that are kind of heavy.
Yeah.
And then, go from there. You have move on to the next thing that might be happening. The next one that actually was on the list here was Lines and Veils, which is the romantic stuff, typically.
Yeah. I don't think anybody should be sitting down doing a porn game. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I think that's going to be really weird to start with. there's got to be a point where you're like, all right, the inevitable happens now. And,
Right.
I'm sorry, Steven. I'm not going to sit here and describe my moves. But
Yeah,
yeah,
like
I
I
think
think the most I've ever done for that was the two characters, an NPC and the character, went off to a room to be alone, and I had them both roll, the NPC and the character roll for performance.
I
And then they come out hours later, and one of them is very happy. The end.
I'm not proud of this one. This is probably the most ridiculous I've ever gotten with it. I had a character who the character was a virgin, like like an old virgin, but a virgin.
40-year-old version.
Yeah, and
Steve Carell.
had a romantic incursion with this woman. So I made him roll his physical conditioning to see if he could last. It was mostly a joke at the table, but
Okay,
it was.
sitting at the table. That sounds freaking hysterical. I can see 100% like 20-year-old boys all sitting around there laughing their ass off.
This happened like 6 months ago, man. like, this is all well too old to even be doing this shit stuff. I think that like yeah. Cut away. Again, some players don't play games for romantic situations. I am not one of those players or game masters. I love angles. I always have. I'm a big bleeding heart and romantic when it comes to that. But like some players don't. Make sure you don't force those people into like weird relationships. You know what I mean? I think
yeah.
I mean, the trauma stuff is tough too because there's legitimately a character that I love that I don't play anymore because I couldn't deal with the trauma that was attached to him anymore. And like I haven't even told the game master who runs that game that I chose to play a different character because of that, but like and part of it was on me. I wrote the character a little bit too much with myself in mind, and being the game master that person is, they used my backstory, and that brought me face to face with things that like I am not ready to be able to be okay with, sort of thing. So I kind of like gently stepped away from that character. That being said, there was no safety mechanism for me. So like we would sit down at the table, and I was just in it for like 4 hours. And that's not cool. That's not fun for somebody if they're just in pain for 4 hours and they don't feel they can talk to anybody about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So I do want to say there should be safety mechanism. There really should be. I think there needs to be a lot of forethought when it comes to game masters and players before you play. And I think that like having any sort of public look at me, I'm traumatized thing is not a great way of doing it. I think it needs to be an anonymous system, whatever system you put down on. Like for me, text me. I've got my phone always right next to me whenever I'm running either online or in person. It's right there. Text me. And if you're not comfortable with the stuff, we'll take a break and I will figure out how to redo this. You know, I mean, but there needs to be an open line of communication and it needs to be an anonymous one, you know?
100%. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And that's kind of my crux of it is open line of communication.
Yes.
Anonymous. Forethought into the topic for both the GM and the players. It's everybody's responsibility. It's GM's responsibility to express what they know. It's players' responsibility to express what they know. You can't expect anybody to be psychic.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, if you know something, you have to say something. If you know your game is going to deal with heavy stuff, you have to let everybody know.
Yep.
If you know that there's certain topics that are not okay, you need to let everybody know. And as human beings, we all need to provide spaces for one another to communicate respectfully to each other, like compassionate human beings. You know?
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, like whatever you do, that's got to be the goal in mind. That seems like a pretty decent place to sort of wrap up the episode. What do you think,
perfect.
Zach?
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
I still got a few more points for the news for next time lined up, so that's not too bad. But for today, for everybody out there, thanks for listening to our news and our rants. This was a lot of fun. Like I had said, this is one of my favorite things that we do because we just sit around and talk about nerd stuff all day.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, Zach, is there anything you want to plug?
We're going slow with the content as usual. The gaming podcast is back. If you guys want to listen to that, it comes out on Wednesdays, both on Spotify and on YouTube. And then we have a bunch of actual plays in the works. Right now, it's going to be probably a month or two before any of them start making their ways to you guys' screens. I will have more information for you guys when they are done, but we are recording the season 2 of Dual Bastards and the third hunt of Ordo, as well as setting up a third one for the summer. So I'm very excited about all 3 of those projects.
As for me, as always, I think Zach kind of nailed most of it. We have shows coming out. Please check them out. Check out wizardsrespite.com and check out some t-shirts and stuff that we have there. And lots of content, lots of articles. Until next time, everybody out there, keep rolling them dice.